Hello, everybody, and welcome to the National League Natter. I'm a slightly more ill Lauren, and I'm joined by my fabulous podcast host, Aaron. And we're going to talk all things the National League. It's already been a week. It does not feel like a week since we last saw each other. But we have plenty of National League coverage for you. We've got the games on Tuesday, which don't get picked up by our Monday podcast. We have the predictions from last week, which I'm not going to spoil anything, guys, but there's plenty to say about the predictions from last week.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, certainly. I'm certainly excited for going through the predictions. That's all I'm going to say.
Fantastic.
And then we have predictions for next week. But before that, we're going to talk, all things Tuesday, and then maybe talk about my game of the week from last Saturday. How have you been, Aaron?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. Like you said, it's amazing how quickly you get into the routine of doing these podcasts. Like, it certainly doesn't feel like a week. And obviously, in that week as well, you've managed to move states and move places and cities on your American tour, haven't you? So a lot's happened in the time that we've not seen each other, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I've scooted my way across the country a little bit. So new room, new setup, same phone camera, given no computer. But I am just dedicated to the podcast. What can I say? I'm dedicated to the league.
We love a dedicated host. So, like you say, to start with, then on Tuesday night, it was the first of my favourite type of football matches at night time, and the game week in a whole didn't disappoint really in terms of there was plenty of goals, plenty of talking points, plenty of big results as well for teams really. So I think there's no probably better place to start in a quick rundown and a quick look at probably the tie of the Tuesday game week was Barnet versus Forest Green. Now, we've talked on this podcast about, these are two teams that have got very high, lofty ambitions to get out of this division this year. And, I think Dean Brennan said himself in an interview a couple of weeks ago, the team that manages to finish above Forest Green will likely be the team that wins the title. So it was, even though it's only the third game week, it kind of felt like a big point of the season, this game. And look, it actually went in the favour of the home team. Barnet managed to pick up a 1-0 win on Tuesday night, which surprised me a little bit because I probably had Forest Green ever so slightly favourites going into that. I mean, we say Barnet got the win, and obviously they did, but it was actually a 93rd minute winner. Now, in terms of the magnitude of this game, Lauren, how exciting and how unbelievably dramatic is that in terms of the two teams going for the title or in and around the title race, and the game gets decided in the 93rd minute, plus a red card in the 74th minute from for a screen player as well. So they were defending resolutely by the sounds of it, and they just couldn't hold on in the end, could they?
Yeah, I mean, a 95-minute goal is always dramatic, but especially these two teams and expecting them to be in the tussle at the top of the table. I'm hoping that that's indicative of what the whole season is going to be. And it's going to be fought right to the end and with blood, sweat, and tears from the red card. If this game, I wouldn't say personifies because that is making it a person, but if this game is indicative of what the season is going to be, it's going to be a very good season.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, Barnet will be buzzing with that performance because it was the first sort of big test this season, I would say. And, I hate to bring it up to Barnet fans, but they had the probably last big game of similar sort of magnitude, even though it's only game week number 3 in terms of stature against teams that are going for the same prize as them, was the playoff semi-final defeat last season. And that ended disastrously, if we're being completely honest, for Barnet. So it looks like they've got a bit more steel now when it comes to fighting the big teams. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come for them. In terms of Forest Green now, that's 4 points from 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that I've not missed any important points, but I'm sure it's 4 from 3.
Yeah, 4 from 3.
Yeah, 4 from 3. So a draw, a win, and a loss. Very, very sort of average, middle of the road start for Forest Green. Where are you with like them? Obviously, I know it's too early to make any bold sort of claims and stuff, but with a side that's got sort of lofty ambitions, have they been a bit more average than maybe you might have expected them to be?
Well, I'm going to back myself from the first podcast we did when we did a bit predictions for the league. And I said that I don't think Forest Green is going to be up there at the end of the season. And that might be a bold claim. And me reminding Forest Green fans that I predicted them to not be in the playoffs feels a bit of a cruel thing to do at what is 9 a.m. for me. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting loads after seeing them in League Two last season. For those new fans, I'm a Stockport fan, so I saw Forest Green twice last season, and I just wasn't particularly wowed. And I thought that this league is so competitive. I mean, we've lost some of our biggest names in it now, but I wasn't surprised that they were going to struggle in this league, really. I don't know whether I would think struggle as much as they have done so far. Well, they're not struggled, they've just been average. But I didn't think they'd come in and basically just like piss the league.
I think I would like to say that obviously it is 3 games in, so for me I don't think you can look at a table taking shape really till maybe 10, 12, 15 games in, even being honest. That's probably the first time I'll look at a table with any sort of real notice. But I have to agree, really. I think obviously they have expectation and probably ambition to bounce back at the first time of asking, but we are 2 of the biggest advocates of teams that probably thought the same when we dropped into here. And this, I think people are starting to realise that the National League is no joke anymore. Like, it's not just you don't have a right just to get straight back in the EFL just because you were once an EFL side. You have to earn it. You have to work for it. And at the minute, we need more from Forest Green. But like I said, we're only 3 games in, and I'm sure that'll come. Now, obviously, this is a preview show, so we're not going to go through like every game from Tuesday. I've just picked out a few key 3 or 4 like games that I'm just going to touch upon very briefly. So I think the next one we should go to is Hartlepool. Now, the reason why I've done this is because a couple of things. So last week on the review, me and Chris accidentally left the Hartlepool result out the running order just because we were focusing so much on like trying to fit everything in, and that some Hartlepool fans clocked onto this and sent us some messages on our Twitter account, which asked why they were missing and stuff. So I thought I'd go to them first for sure. So actually now Hartlepool are the only team to have not conceded a goal in the division as far as I can see, and they have got so they are on, again, let me just double check, but I think they are on so they are on 7 points, as are 1, 2, 3, 5 teams in this division so far after 3 games. They're on 7 points, not conceded a goal. So that is some good going, really. I mean, they've only scored 2 goals, granted, but to be 3 games in and have 3 clean sheets, that's quite impressive, isn't it? In terms of like the opposition, you could obviously argue that maybe if we're being honest, Tamworth, new boys in the division from sort of lower down, they've not exactly set the world alight. They've really struggled in their opening 3 games. They that like they are finding their feet. They're new to this division, so maybe it's not the most glamorous of it's not a battering of a new team, but from a Hartlepool persuasion, you've got to be happy with 3 clean sheets, haven't you, from 3 games?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the confidence that like goalkeeping is a lot of just, being confident in what you're doing. And the first 3 games being clean sheets, you've got to be happy with that, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think it's interesting because Hartlepool have suffered a lot in this division in the last couple of seasons, and our host from the other company was a Hartlepool fan, and he used to tell me about the struggles and stuff. And like we say, it's 3 games in, so it's too early to say whether it's going to click or not. But in terms of a start, you can't really ask for much more than that, really. I mean, it could only have been topped if if they could have turned it into 3 wins and 3 clean sheets. That would have been most impressive, I guess. But so in terms of a Tamworth persuasion, then they're 3 games in now, and let's be honest, they are starting very poorly and probably starting as we expect them to go on, really. But do you see any sort of powers of recovery, even though it's only 3 games in, for Tamworth to make a sort of claim to survive and try and drag themselves out of the rut that they've started in?
I mean, to be fair, the goal was a late goal, right? The goal
Yeah,
was an 82-minute goal, and from what I've seen from fans of Hartlepool and Tamworth, like Tamworth it wasn't like a thrashing or a beating or anything. They defended relatively well. People saying that they were actually quite impressed with them. I don't know whether that's because they had low expectations or Tamworth were actually decent. I haven't seen the game. But I think that I don't think that it's a ridiculously awful start. I mean, there's 4 teams in the division without a single point. At least Tamworth have, they got a point on the first
yeah,
and the opening day.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I think it's far, like I say this like I haven't just said, oh, I haven't just signed away Forest Green, but it is only 3 games in. And I think that people are still seeing promise in Tamworth. So I think it's too early to say that they're gonna struggle the whole division, but I think something needs to change.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely, for sure. And then next up, I wanted to just briefly touch upon Eastleigh, because they are the only team in this division now with 9 points from the first 3 games. And that surprises me a little bit, really, because I think in pre-season previews and predictions, I kind of maybe had Eastleigh pushing for a playoff place, but I wasn't even fully sure whether they were going to make a playoff place. And obviously, it's only 3 games in, but they've won all 3 of the games. The scoring goals, the winning games, and in terms of a sort of surprise of the division, could it easily be that?
Yeah, I mean they've scored 8 goals, right? So have Gateshead, but I don't know why in my head I would expect that from Gateshead. But they've scored 8 goals, literally won all 3 games, and they were quite early goals as well, right? Especially in this recent one. Eastleigh, it was 2-1 with Solihull, and they got a 3rd minute and a 10th minute goal, right? Which, really cementing themselves in the game. I think I'm a little bit surprised seeing them up there. I just think they fly under my radar a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair, I think.
Um,
And
but I mean, you actually cannot be happier with a goal difference of 5 from your first 3 games with 9 points. Like you're really setting yourself up there for a good start to the season.
yeah, the thing is as well, I don't think potentially they should fly under our radars. But I think they do, because like they've got an absolute bagsman in this division in Paul McCallum, if we're being honest. And for as long as you've got somebody of that stature and sort of prolific in your team, you've always got a chance. So maybe it's about time for us to wake up and realise that Eastleigh can be contenders and are contenders, because they're certainly proving that to be that at the minute. I know you touched on Gateshead a little bit just then. So they, I think, obviously, we say week in, week out, one of the prettiest footballing sides probably this division has seen in a long time. But they faltered a little bit on Tuesday night with people. The fans might be split, because some might say it's a decent point at a difficult place to go, but some might say it's 2 points dropped. They drew one all away at the Aquatic Centre. There we go. Twice in 3 weeks. Halifax down. And look, after the trauma of last weekend, the awful, horrific injury to Greg Ollie, like they are doing it in, I was going to say his memory, but I'd just like to make it aware that wouldn't have fit, because Greg Ollie isn't dead. He's just got a broken leg. But they're doing it for him this season. They've made that very clear. And like I said, I expect Gateshead to be going for the title, even though they can't do much with it at the minute in terms of going up because of the ground and whatever else. But I think that's a 2 points drop for them. I do think Halifax are a very, very stubborn, very, very defensively sound team. We've said this on the podcast before, but I think from a Gateshead persuasion, you would probably be expecting the 3 points if you've got title aspirations. Would you agree with that, Lauren?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, especially just, I don't know, Halifax coming off of a loss. Maybe they wanted to put something, put themselves back in the running. Saying all this, they're literally 3 games in. Like, it's so early to be calling anything. But I think, yeah, if you're going for that title push, Gateshead probably should have got those extra 2, especially because they conceded almost like straight after the they scored, and then like 60 seconds later they Halifax equalized. So I don't know, maybe they switched off a bit. But you've got to be doing more than that. You've got to be wanting more than that.
I agree, definitely. And then the last sort of team we're going to cover in this sort of mini review, just because I can, and I am the host of the podcast. I want to touch upon my boys, because obviously we're still unbeaten. We played Fylde at home on Tuesday night, and I'm not even joking. I'm not even trying to be biased. Like, we were so good, and the game had 2 absolute rockets in the game. Really, it was decided by 2 absolute wonder goals. I don't know whether you've got a chance to see the goals yet, Lauren, but if you haven't, I certainly suggest you do, because they're probably 2 of the nicest strikes you'll see in the early part of the season. But I think we are going to be I think we've shown, especially at home, we're going to be a force this season, because we've just completely changed our sort of style of play this season. We are like passing through the lines, we're pressing, we are the ones like taking it to teams now. It's like night and day to what we've seen last season. And obviously, it's like you say, it's only 3 games, but the style of play has been implemented early. And as an Oldham fan, I can't help but be a little bit excited. Of course, we're going to have harder tests to come. One of them is Saturday. We go away to Lauren's soft spot, Aldershot, and then on the Monday, because we have a game week on Bank Holiday Monday this next coming week. And then we play Gateshead at home, so they're going to be probably our 2 biggest games of the season so far, 5 games in. So that'll be a good barometer. But in terms of how we've started, I'm very, very happy. If I'm being honest, I'd take a 7 points from 9 return. And in terms of Fylde, I must admit, considering that they've scored 6 goals now, and 5 of them have been Nick Horton, and Nick Horton assisted the 6. So I think it's fair to say we can say it's Nick Horton FC at times at Fylde. But I was severely disappointed with them, really, because from the minute they really got their goal, so probably from about the 32nd minute, you could see they were just coming to sit on, like, every time, like, the goalkeeper would go down with the ball, or like just every bit of time wasting they could possibly do. They weren't interested in winning that game, in my opinion. They were just interested in frustrating us for as long as they could do. Like, and credit to them, it worked. But I think if that game would have gone on maybe 5-10 minutes longer, we would have won that game. I'm convinced about it. So I'm definitely infused. And yeah, from a Fylde perspective, I wasn't impressed at all, if I'm being honest. I think they'll come unstuck if that's how they want to play this season. But yeah, you can look, 3 games in, 7 points, only 1 goal conceded. So yeah, I'll take that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think that's everyone, or every one of the bigger teams we were going to talk about. I know Sutton got a win as well, so we'll just mention that. So Sutton are beginning to fly now under our podcast, a friend of the podcast, Steve Morrison, and they got a good result at weekend. But we are 20 minutes in, so I think that's probably the perfect time to now start looking ahead, or should we say, looking back. We'll do the last bit of the review in terms of Lozzie's game of the week from last week, and then we'll look ahead to this weekend's fixture list and pick out some keys. So, Lauren, do you want to take it away for your game of the week?
I will indeed. So my game of the week on Saturday was the Halifax Aldershot game, if I am correct. Let me just check. Yes, it was a Halifax Aldershot game. And I came into this game wanting my boys to win. And what did they do? They won. I mean, I'm not that biased, I promise, especially because I don't actually support Aldershot. I'm a very unbiased, no loyalties kind of podcast host. But the game, the goal was in like the 3rd minute of the game. To be fair, great strike. But then not much else happened in the game, really. I mean, it was a great great goal, but other than that, not much. The post-match interview has been interesting. I think it was the shots manager, although I might be wrong, was not happy at all with the ref. So I usually do a ref review as part of these, and they were not very happy at all, saying that they got no decisions their way, that there were 15 bad fouls and only 1 yellow card given. All these sort of angry moments, but there wasn't anything particularly horrendous, I thought, from the ref. Maybe a little bit unfair with how they handed things out, but nothing too horrendous there for the ref. So I think the ref did a decent job. But yeah, just an absolutely fantastic strike for Aldershot in the 3rd minute, and then Halifax didn't really have an answer for it.
Yeah, so look, it's been a very. We talked about, Forest Green having a very sort of middle of the road average start to the season, but I think you can say the same for the Shaman as well, right? Halifax in terms of getting off to an absolute flyer, kind of shocking the division on game week number 1, beating title favourites Barnet 2-1, and then but from there really they've been average at best with a loss and a draw in the last 2 games. So in terms of sort of what I'm trying to say is, do you think on the balance of the game and on the balance how the season was going on so far, you think Shots deserved the victory? It wasn't like it was kind of like a smash or grab, no?
I feel like, again, it's an early start. I think that they probably will be wanting to get they feel like they deserve more wins than they've been having, especially with how they ended the season. The last one, they ended in a really positive place. I think that on the whole, they probably deserved the win, but it wasn't the most convincing ever.
Nice.
But yeah, they
Nice.
definitely want to
So
be starting more than that.
I agree. I definitely agree. You said that the you don't think the ref did too much wrong, even though the shots manager might disagree with you. But you are yet to give him a rating out of 10. So what would you give him this week?
Oh, out of 10, out of 10. Okay. Maybe bang average 7. Like the start to Aldershot season, Not too bad, not the best.
Amazing. Amazing. So if we look ahead then to, I was going to say Saturday's fixtures, but actually, Lauren, we are blessed because there is a Friday night fixture. Friday at 7:45, and it's another one of your random soft spots in this division. It's Dagenham and Redbridge coming up against the team we've just been speaking about in at home to Halifax. Now, we've said about Halifax needing to find a bit of form and sort of like be a bit more consistent. Is this the game week that they can do it? And look, we know what Dagenham can do. We know that they're a very dangerous team when they want to be, but they I think quite a lot of teams in this division, because it's so early on, have been quite average so far. And I would put Dagenham up there as well. So it's kind of two sort of middle of the road, could do better but could do worse teams battling it out on Friday night. So yeah, that's definitely one to keep an eye on. And then before we even get into the Saturday 3 o'clocks, we have our first half 12, I believe,
Yeah.
in the National League this season, as title contenders Gateshead are coming up against newly promoted Yeovil Town. That one to me is one that piques my interest straight away, because it's, even though Yeovil are new into the division, it's Yeovil are still a massive club with a lot of EFL history, and they'll have their own ambitions and expectations as well, and so will Gateshead. Even though Gateshead can't really carry out on their ambitions and expectations because of the ground at the minute, but that's definitely one for me to keep an eye on, and I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on. And then you've got Aldershot Town versus Oldham Athletic. Obviously, Oldham's second away game of the season. You've got Altrincham versus maximum points, 100% team Eastleigh. You've got Barnet versus Southend, which to me also just screams exciting, because I think we're finally starting to see Southend tick. We said that we expect them to be up there now with the takeover abolished, and the making signings and stuff, and so I think that'll be two teams that'll be right in the mix as well with that. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. We've also got, what else have we got going on Saturday? We've got Boston versus Tamworth. Now here, I'm not gonna say predictions yet, but obviously two newly promoted sides into the National League coming together this weekend. So is one of them going to get a very vital 3 points, or is this going to be a game of cat and mouse, and it could just be a middle of the road draw? Who knows? You'll have to wait for our predictions to hear about our thoughts on that for sure. But what else we have as well? We have, if my computer wants to stop freezing, that is, we have Ebbsfleet versus Maidenhead United. We have Fylde versus we have Ebbsfleet versus Woking. Fylde versus Maidenhead. Hartlepool, who again are trying to preserve their amazing 100% clean sheet record at home to Wealdstone. Rochdale at home to Forest Green, which I think is a toughie, even though Rochdale have I was going to say started well, and they've probably started well considering the unrest that they've had the last couple of seasons. But they have only just got 4 points from 3 games, so it could be better for Rochdale. But that'll be a big test for them, I think. Then you've got Solihull Moors hosting Braintree, and Sutton United versus York, which is something that piques my interest as well in terms of Sutton going for it, but also we said on this podcast on the preview before the season started that if sort of York can get the house in sort of gear off the pitch, I think they could push for the playoffs. And they had a big result on Tuesday night at home to Rochdale. So are things going to start to tick along for them? So I think you've got a lot of interesting. Intriguing fixtures there, haven't you? Really, this weekend, Lauren. Is it obviously I've just pulled up on a couple that stick out to me personally. Is there any that stick out to you for any varying reasons?
Yeah, I mean, York's an interesting one because to me, like I remember York right at the bottom of the league last season. And they've had a great start to the season. 7 from 3. So obviously one draw, but they've had a great start to the season. So I am excited for that Sutton York game. I also agree that Gateshead Yeovil is going to be. Well, I hope it's going to be a great game. Like we mentioned, we like the way Gateshead play. They play lovely football, and Yeovil. I don't know whether I'm surprised or not that they've um, had a decent start to the season. Obviously, they've won 2, lost 1, but I think that both teams are coming off a pretty decent start. They're going to have a bit of confidence behind them. I think that's going to be an awesome game. I'm very excited for that game. And then you mentioned Boston Tamworth. I think that is going to be a season starter for one of the teams. I think it's important at this point to for them to really go out at that game. I don't think that either team can afford. I mean, again, we're 3 games in, right? But I don't think either team can afford to go in with we'll take 1 point and we'll tick along our point counter.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree, especially on that one because like we on the one hand it is only 3 games in, but on the other hand, you've got 2 teams that if this ends in a draw, I don't think it's an ideal result for either side because they then would have gone 4 games each without winning a game in the National League. And I know it's it's a step up for both, granted, but the longer you're waiting for that sort of first win, the more sort of uncertainty might creep in the sort of player's mindset. The more sort of nerves that you get as a group of players. So I do agree. Although it's 3 games in, I do think it's important for one of them to kind of get that sort of them cobwebs brushed off and get that first 3 points on the board.
100%, 100%. So I think to me, those 3 are the most exciting games. I mean, as well, you've got the Ebbsfleet Woking game, which both of them have also had a pretty rough start to the season. At least Woking have got a win behind them, to be fair. But Ebbsfleet struggling with, they conceded 6. Well, they conceded 10 goals. Like, how do you score 4 in the first 3 games and still have 0 points with a -6 goal difference? Like, that's some pretty horrendous defense.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Like, absolutely gonna have to turn something around at some point, and maybe
So
Woking's the game because they're not doing particularly brilliantly either.
now I think is the hard task. So every week on this podcast, for those that might be new listeners or whatever, we pick a sort of joint, like standout tie of the week that we think will be sort of number one. And like if we were doing a National League match of the day running order, basically this game would be top of our running order without seeing them played yet. That's what basically this is. So I am looking down at the fixtures again, and I think for me if I'm being completely honest, I think it's a toss-up between two, and I'm hoping that Lauren's mind is similar and we're in sync here. But I would say the two that I'm looking at for tie of the week or tie of the round is Barnet Southend and what else do we have? Barnet Southend and Sutton York. Like you say, there is a argument for making the 12:30 the tie of the week, but also I think with Barnet Southend especially, that's two teams I expect to be like blow for blow all season, and be
Yeah.
up there fighting for that sort of spot and that sort of promotion. So I think that's the one that sticks out to me. Would you sort of agree with them too? And would you be happy to lock Barnet and Southend in?
I would indeed. It'd be helpful if I unmuted my mic, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think that Southend, we thought that they might do quite well this season, but I like, from all the reports I've heard, like they've been playing really nice football. And I would be very surprised if they're not up there at the end. So I think that Barnet Southend, I'm happy to lock that in. I trust
Nice.
you.
Well, so that means at the start of next week's preview as well, we will touch upon. So obviously, the next one that we're going to lock in is Lozzie's game of the week, but also we'll touch upon the tie of the week as well in a little bit of a review that we do. But now is one of my favourite parts of the podcast, where I get to give Lauren some National League homework to do on a specific game. So let me just have a quick look down the fixtures again, and I will give you, I think, what would you like? Now, I could be evil and give you like a basement battle like Boston and Tamworth or Ebbsfleet and Woking, or I could give you something with a little bit of excitement in. I'm going to try and read you, and I think you're kind of hoping that I give you Sutton versus York, but I don't think I'm going to give you that. But what I will give you this week actually is the 3 from 3 100% leaders of the league, and you can have Altrincham versus Eastleigh for this week, please, Loz.
Very nice. Thank you very much. I will come at you with a ref score and a little rundown of the game, tell you my feelings on it.
Nice, nice.
I'm excited.
Now, I know Lauren is very excited for the next part of the podcast, but before we get there, and yes, I might be stalling, yes, I might be delaying, but I think before we get into the second half, it's about time for you to listen to our wonderful sponsors who, without their work, we wouldn't be able to produce the content week in, week out that we do at the Sport Deck. So we will be back in a few minutes and you will hear from them. So we are back, and this is, if I'm being honest, this is the moment and the part of the podcast that I've been dreading all week, because now the problem we've got with the sort of our wonderful social media admin Callum has been making us these fancy graphics to go along with our wonderful Twitter account. But because of that, we tend to know the results of the prediction league by Sunday night at the latest. So it kind of kills the on-air suspense of the revealing of the results. But obviously, you guys, unless you've seen the graphic, you won't know. So it's still suspenseful for you, I guess. But I feel disappointed because I raced into a 1-0 lead on opening day, 15-9, and I thought, I finally got this girl. I finally got her. I've got her. And then for some reason, game week number 2 was an absolute disaster class from myself, and Lauren managed to pull it back. And that means after 2 game weeks, obviously excluding the Tuesday night game, because like Lauren said, we don't have a standalone podcast scheduled this season for Tuesday night games, unfortunately, because there's only three of us that do this podcast rotation, so we'd kind of be dragging ourselves a little bit bare. So I just thought, for like keeping everything fresh, we'd just kind of cover Tuesday night games on this show whenever there's a Tuesday game week. But so the scores on the doors after 2 game weeks of predictions is 1-1, isn't it, Lauren? I mean, I don't actually know. I don't actually know, to be fair, the actual margin of victory for you, which I'm sure you'll let me know in a second. But yeah, how do you feel about finally getting the loss back from last week, and are you excited to push forward now, and do you think you're in the driver's seat again?
Yeah, I thought I'd lost my spark. I thought, beginner's luck. I started to believe you getting in my head, getting in my mindset. And you were so confident from the last one. To be fair, I was thrashed last time, right? I was thrashed. I'll take the L, I'll take the L. But I'm feeling good now. I'm feeling confident. I feel like I think we both had a pretty decent game day, actually.
I
Me
see.
more than you,
I'm gonna say
but
I'd like to disagree. To be honest, I think the only thing that saved me from that being absolutely probably a bigger margin than week number 1 for you was the fact that I managed to pull 3 points around for a perfect prediction on one of the scores. If it wasn't for that, then I think that could have been proper embarrassing for me. So you know what? I'm a change man this season. I'm gonna hold my hands up. Say the better person won on this week. Congratulations for your victory, but it is only a victory in battle, because I am going to win the war. Let's make no mistakes about that.
are
Um,
you? Are
yeah,
you? So yeah,
congrat-
we
congratulations.
thank you. I ended up winning 17-13 in the end. So
So
four more
exactly
points.
exactly what I was saying there. If I wouldn't have got that perfect result, it would have been 17-10, which is
Yeah.
a a 1 more point margin than the 15-9 result I got on opening week. So that perfect result kind of saved me there a little bit, Loz, didn't it?
It did a little bit. Definitely.
So,
But
for those listeners and viewers of our podcast that won't have seen the graphic yet, do you just want to get your final little bit of rubbing out the way and give us a rundown of the scores and the points from last week?
yes, I can do. So for those of you who have never seen our prediction league before, we also score it very weirdly. So it's 3 points if you get a perfect prediction. It's 2 if you get it correct and you're the closest to the score. And it's 1 if you get it sort of the correct direction. So for example, if we both go for a win, but I do 3 goal difference and you do 1 goal difference, and the goal difference is 1, but you have the wrong score, you'd get 2 and I'd get 1. Very confusing, but kind of makes sense. So,
And the thing is as well, we are very we are very random on this podcast. We go on a lot of different tangents, so I think it fits with our personalities to have the prediction league very random and confusing. So we can keep up with it. So I hope you guys can.
if it makes sense, then it wouldn't belong on this podcast, let's be honest.
Exactly that. So go on then. Do your victory
So
reading.
our first game of Saturday the 17th of August was Boston versus Forest Green. Now, we both agreed exactly on our prediction for this. We predicted a 2-0 win for Forest Green. We obviously didn't give them enough credit because Forest Green Rovers ended up winning 4-0 in that game. So we both get 2 points there. So we're starting off strong, we're starting off even. There was no way we weren't going to start off even. And we both had the same prediction again for the next game, Braintree versus Yeovil. We both went for a 1-1 draw. Yeovil come away with the win in that game. They won 1-0 in the end. So that's no points for us because we went the wrong way. Eastleigh versus Fylde is our next game, and I predicted a Fylde win 2-1. You predicted an Eastleigh win 1-0. Now, Eastleigh had a great game. They won 4-2 in the end. So I get 0 points there and you get 2. So you're taking an early lead in this, 4-2 at the moment, the same as the score in that game. Look at that. Ebbsfleet versus Barnet. I went for a 2-0 win to Barnet. You went for a 4-0 win to Barnet. The actual score was 2-1. So I get 2 points there because my goal difference was 2. And your goal difference was 3. So you get just 1 point. In the Halifax Aldershot game, my game of the week, I predicted a 1-0 win to the Shots. You predicted a 1-0 draw. Given it was a 1-0 win to the Shots, I get the whole big 3 points there. That really helped with my lead. You know,
this is really, really hurting my ego here. I can't lie.
Is it? Should I just slow down a little bit more and rub it in even more? So at this current standing, we are 7-5. But you know, don't worry, I still pull out even more moves here. With the Hartlepool versus Southend game, I went for a 2-2 draw, and you went for a 2-1 win to Southend. Given it was a 0-0 draw, I get 2 points and you get none. Rochdale versus Dagenham and Redbridge. I went for a 3-2 win to the Daggers, and you went for a 2-0 win to Rochdale. That was very good of you. It was a draw in the game in the end, so no points for either of us there. In the Solihull Maidenhead game, I went for a 2-0 win to Solihull. You went for a 3-1 win to Maidenhead. So I've given myself 1 point and I've given you 2 points because you got that Maidenhead would score a goal. So I gave you an extra point there because we have equal goal difference.
I don't remember that, by the way. I don't understand. Reading this back, that's the one where I'm thinking, what was I cooking up thinking that Maidenhead were going to beat Solihull North? But
you didn't. You got the Solihull would win. You just got a draw. You got the Maidenhead would score a goal.
Oh right, okay, because you read that you said Maidenhead 3-1 when you read it.
Oh, yeah, it was Solihull win 3-1.
Okay, perfect. That I was thinking, what am I cooking up here?
No, that would have been I think quite a rogue prediction. Sutton versus Alty. I went for a 2-1 Sutton win, and you went for a 1-1 draw. Sutton ended up winning 5-0 in that game. So I get 2 points there, and you get none. But that's an incredible amount of goals in that game. Then in the Wealdstone Oldham game, I went for a 2-0 Oldham win. You went for a 3-1 Oldham win. We both get 2 points there in the end because the score was 1-0 to Oldham. So Oldham did win, so we both went the correct way. Woking versus Gateshead. Gateshead. I said Gateshead was going to win 3-1. You said Gateshead were going to win 2-1. Gateshead won 2-0, so I win because I had a goal difference of 2 in my prediction. So that's 2 points to me and 1 point to you. And in our final game of the week, we had York versus Tamworth. York winning 2-0 in the end. I predicted a 1-0 win, but you, Aaron, out of this whole game week that you had a pretty big shocker on, you got it perfectly correct. So you get the whole 3 points there.
It spurred my blushes just a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. At least it was the final one on the table, so you can kind of pull through. So yes, in the end, I win 17-13, and it brings up the game 1-1 for the season.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look, I don't want to waste any time, and I want to win back my my pride and my ego a little bit. So, would you be so kind to let me take the reins and go first with my set this week? That way, you can not accuse me of sitting on the fence as you like to do usually on this podcast. So I would like
You're
to
the
take
one that blames me for fence sitting.
I would like to take the initiative this week and take the lead if you don't mind.
Yes, of course you can.
Right. So tomorrow night, we have Dagenham and Redbridge versus Halifax Town. Now 7:45 on a Friday. I think Daggers are going to win this, and I think their sort of inconsistent / poor start to the season for the Shaman is going to continue, unfortunately, and I think Daggers will win this 2-1.
2-1.
I think, you know what, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to say the 12:30 on a Saturday might be the upset of the weekend for most people, but like I said, with Yeovil's EFL pedigree and starting relatively well this season, I think they could upset Gateshead here a little bit, and I'm going to go for a very, very tightly contested 1-0 Yeovil away win.
Tightly contested on that one.
Tightly, yeah, very tightly. Now, this we're obviously going to have different opinions on this one, but like I said, biased or not biased, I don't really care. I'm never going to back against my boys on any sort of prediction that you ever get me to do. So I'm going to say, again, I think this one will be a tight one, but I think Oldham will continue their unbeaten start to the season and make it 10 points from 12 games with a 2-1 away victory at Aldershot Town.
Fair.
Altrincham versus Eastleigh. Now, I think this is where Eastleigh dropped their first points of the season, or I should say, points, because I don't think they will lose. I still think they'll be unbeaten after 4 games, but I do think Alty will sort of have a bit of a kick up the arse after quite a awful sort of start to the season from them, and I think they will be strong and resolute and get a 1-1 draw in this game.
Very nice.
Barnet versus Southend. Now, this is a really, really hard one to call because I could go comfortably either way and be okay with that, and I don't really want to sit on the fence. So I'm gonna back my Monday review co-host Chris and my good friends at the Bees Pod and say that Barnet are gonna continue their resurgence after a bad game week number 1 and beat Southend at home, and I will say 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tamworth Boston. Now, am I brave enough to? We talked about the importance of either side kind of getting off the mark, and this would probably the game to do it. But the likelihood is, I think, 2 newly promoted sides, I think this will be a game of chess, and I think the likelihood is that it could be a draw. But I don't really want to put a game week in with 2 draws. But for the sake of trying to win some points, I'm going to do just that. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, I think.
1-1 draw. See,
Yes,
you called me the fence sitter.
Listen. You have your time, my darling. You'll have your time. Let the master do his work now, right?
I do apologise.
So next up we have on the list we have Ebbsfleet versus Woking. Now, I fancy Woking, even though they have had some severe discipline issues. I think it's fair to say. To start of the season, I fancy them to get 3 points here against an Ebbsfleet side that I don't expect to do much this year and to be banging trouble. And I think Woking will win this game 2-0.
2-0 to Woking there.
Fylde, Maidenhead. Now, even though I said Fylde were very, very poor, which I think is a fair sort of explanation of the game against us on Tuesday night, I do think they're stronger than Maidenhead, and I do think Nick Horton will be back at his creative best with a little bit more freedom in this game. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Fylde win.
2-1 to Fylde.
Hartlepool versus Maidenhead. I again think Hartlepool are going to carry on their unbeaten streak in this division, but I do think their sort of what's its face, their sort of clean sheet record is going to disappear. And I think they will win, but I think they will win 3-1 at home and concede the first goal of the season.
What was that, sorry?
3-1 to Hartlepool, please.
3-1 to Hartlepool, I have you.
Yes. Rochdale versus Forest Green. Now, for the last two prediction leagues, I've tried to be very, very kind to my cross town neighbours and give you the benefit of the doubt. But even kind Aaron can't be too silly and too nice with his predictions. I do think Forest Green will be a tough test for Rochdale, and I think it might just be one step too far, even though the Dale are at home this weekend. And I think Forest Green will win this game 1-0 away from home.
1-0 away from home.
Solihull Moors versus Braintree. No real explanation needed. I don't think Braintree are brilliant, even though they've had a bit of investment and money. I think this will be a routine home win for the Moors, and I'm going to say 3-1 Solihull Moors.
3-1 Solihull Moors. I don't know how routine the 3-1 is, but...
What do you mean? Routine means like comfortable and easy.
Yeah.
Trust me, 3-1 at any sort of division. Okay, then. So if you want me to break it down, all right, okay. This is how confident I am.
No.
Solihull Moors will be 3-0 up. No, we're not. By the way, this isn't some sort of way that you can get extra points off me if this doesn't happen. But just
no, I'm writing this down. This is being added to your prediction.
No, this isn't fair. Just to back up my confidence, Solihull Moors will be 3-1 up, and Braintree will get a consolation goal in the last 10 to 5 minutes of the game. So as I was saying before I got interrupted, fairly routine victory for the Moors. Thank you very much. And then the last game of the sort of, I was going to say game week, but I'll call it the game day because there is another fixture again on Monday. So the last game of the game day is Sutton versus York. Now, what? How do I play this? Because you're only going to say I'm sitting on the fence extremely if I go 3 draws in a game week.
Yep.
But again, I think either side could win this game. So I don't know which way to go. I will go with our friend of the podcast, Steve Morrison, to try and keep him sweet for any future interviews, and say Sutton will win this game, but it will be very, very, very tight, and it'll be 2-1, and York will be in the game till late on, I think.
Nice. Just on that, if you haven't already listened to why Steve Morrison is a friend of the podcast, you should check out on our YouTube or on our wherever else our podcasts are.
And Apple Music.
You can have a listen to our friend of the podcast. Can you not?
Yes, you can. And yeah, I obviously a little plug. That was our very first manager interview as a duo and as a National League natter. And look, I think that was one of the most insightful interviews I've ever done in terms of like he was just open to answering everything and anything that came off the top of our heads. And it's a really good watch and listen. So like Lauren said, make sure you go and check it out. It's still linked at the very top of our Twitter page as well, by the way. So you don't have to go out your way to search for it. If you just go on to X or Twitter, whatever we want to call it nowadays. I can never get my head around it. But if you go on to X and search for National League Natter on X, it's at the very top, and it's a pinned tweet on our Twitter account. So yeah. But before you go, in fact, no, you do yours now, and then we'll do a rundown of both side to side at the end.
Sounds perfect. So let's start with our Friday match then. I'm going to give my boys the win here. I really should get less biased. But it's been working for me so far. So I think the first game week I didn't back my Daggers, and then they won. So I should have backed them. But I'm going to say that it's going to be a 2-0 win to the Daggers there. For Gateshead Yeovil, I'm really excited for that game. I think it's going to be a great game. I think that Gateshead are going to win. I know that you think it's going to be the upset, but I think that Gateshead are going to win 3-2. I think there's going to be lots of goals in that game.
Goals galore there from Lauren.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's always been goals galore in at least one of these games the past few.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you've not got any big scoring. I mean, you've got You've got 3-3-1s in your predictions, so you've predicted lots of goals in this game week. Okay, shots Oldham. Do I back my boys or do I go what I actually think? But if I go what I actually think, it'll also help you, like just your ego. So
see, this is nice this season because even Lauren knows that Oldham are a good side.
I genuinely, Oldham have had a really, really good start to the season, and I know you're gassed about it, and you won't stop talking about how excited you are for the start of the season. But genuinely, they've had a really, really good start. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll go 1-0 to Oldham.
I'll take that.
Eastleigh Alty, I'm gonna say that. Now, there's two ways to go about this, aren't there? Because Alty, actually, because Alty were absolutely thrashed by Sutton, right? But then they've come back against Maidenhead, so maybe not. But my thinking is, let me just get my notes back up. I think Eastleigh is still going to keep their good form for now. I think they're going to hold on until the Monday fixtures before losing any points. So I think Eastleigh is still going to win. And I'm going to give them a 2-1 win there. Barnet Southend. I'm going to give this one a draw. I'm going to sit on the fence for the first time. I just think Southend have been awesome, right? I don't think they're actually doing that well table-wise, actually. But again, we're not really it's only 3 games in. But yeah, they've had 5 points in 3 games. Yeah. But I really like the way that Southend play football, and I do think that they are going to be up there. I think we said that was going to be our tie of the week. I'm going to give this my first draw. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-2 this game.
Nice. Some big goals in your prediction so far here.
Yeah, well, I just want some excitement for my game week.
Well, that's fair enough.
Boston Tamworth. I'm really sorry. I said that I wanted Boston to do well this season. I just don't think it's going to be this week. They've been really struggling. They've literally conceded an average of 3 goals a game. They're on 0 points, and I really want Boston to do well, but just at the moment they're struggling. So is Tamworth as well, but at least Tamworth, from what I've seen, some people have been Tamworth have played Tamworth a little bit unlucky. Like they probably deserved to lose, but they had
Trying to be
some
a bit
good
more resolute.
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had some good moments, but I don't know. Just all I've seen about Boston is that like teams are gonna know how to like get through them quite easy. So I'm really sorry, Boston, but I'm going to predict you guys losing to Tamworth 2-0.
So you still don't think Boston would score a goal?
No.
Wow.
No, I don't. They might be more evenly matched, to be fair, but I don't see it. Ebbsfleet Woking. I'm going to give Woking the win here. Just a 2-1 to Woking, I think. That's all I've got to say about that. Fylde Maidenhead. Fylde Maidenhead, I'm gonna call a draw. I'm gonna say 1-1 draw. Hartlepool, Wealdstone. I'm gonna give Hartlepool the win, I think. Which isn't very exciting because we've gone very similar ways for most of these. But actually, no, we haven't. We've gone quite different. Okay, yeah, we'll give Hartlepool the win.
She tries to be me. She wants to be me all the time. This is a
I
problem.
do actually, Aaron. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That's why I'm gonna get your face tattooed when I lose the prediction.
You just said that, not me. That just came out of her mouth without any sort of aid from me. You've heard that on the podcast now. That's locked in as far as I'm concerned.
Right, yeah. I forgot. I kind of forgot that this was being recorded. Right. Hartlepool Wealdstone. I'm gonna say 1-0 to Hartlepool.
Nice.
I think they're gonna keep up their clean streak. The clean sheet streak. That's the one.
The clean streak.
Pull yourself together, Aaron.
I am. I'm back in the room. Don't worry. You just caught me off guard, I think.
Right. Rochdale, Forest Green. I'm also gonna give Forest Green the win, but I'm gonna go 2-1 to Forest Green. And then Solihull versus Braintree. I've got to give Solihull the win there. And I am going to go 2-0 to Solihull. And then last but not least, Sutton versus York. I'm going to say it's going to be a bigger win for Sutton than you have. You've given them just a 1 goal difference, 2-1. Oh, ow! I just got cramp in my leg. Sorry.
Yeah, we've gone past the hour mark in this podcast, and everything's just gone crazy. My camera's froze on the most like unflattering picture of myself. Lauren's got dropped in bed. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, look, right, let me get these predictions out then. Sutton versus York. I'm going to say 4-0 to Sutton. Yeah, 4-0 to Sutton.
Nice. So,
right.
Just so we're clear, by the way, like it genuinely looks like I'm like, I don't know, if I turn my camera on now, it looks like I'm having some sort of like malfunction or stroke or something. So for the rest of the podcast, I'm gonna turn my camera off.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. So go then side by side from top to bottom for us, Loz.
Right. Daggers versus Halifax. I've gone for a 2-0 win to the Daggers. You've gone for a 2-1 win to the Daggers. So we're both agreed there's going to be a Daggers win.
Nice.
Gateshead Yeovil. I've gone for a 3-2 Gateshead win, and you've gone for a bit of an upset with a 1-0 Yeovil win. Aldershot versus Oldham. We've got a 1-0 win and a 2-0 win for Oldham there. Obviously, I've gone for the 1-0, you've gone for the 2. Alty versus Eastleigh. I've gone for an Eastleigh 2-1 win. I think they're still going to continue their winning streak. You went for a draw, although I never actually wrote down what number draw.
I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
A 1-1 draw. Lovely. Yeah. Barnet versus Southend. I've gone for a 2-2 draw between the two teams. You've gone for a 3-1 win to Barnet. So we both think there's going to be 4 goals in that game. We've just changed the split of them. Boston versus Tamworth. I've gone for a 2-0 win to Tamworth. You've gone for a 1-1 draw. Ebbsfleet versus Woking. You've gone for a 2-0 win to Woking, and I've gone for a 2-1 win to Ebbsfleet. Fylde versus Maidenhead. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I've sat on the fence a little bit there. And you've gone for a 2-1 win to Fylde. Hartlepool Wealdstone. I've gone for a 1-0 win to Hartlepool. You've gone for a 3-1 win, breaking Hartlepool's clean sheet streak. Rochdale versus Forest Green. I've gone for a 2-1 win to Forest Green. You've gone for a 1-0 win. Solihull versus Braintree. I've gone for a 2-0 win to Solihull. You've gone for a 3-1 win to Solihull. And I quote, Solihull will be 3-0 up and Braintree will get their consolation goal in the last 10 to 5 minutes.
That is that. I swear on my life, if you use this against me, I'll quit the podcast.
You'll quit the podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'll deliberately use it against you now. I'm joking, Aaron. I love having you as a podcast host. You're amazing. You're awesome. I promise. And then the last game of the week, we've got 4-0 Sutton against Solihull. Oh, goodness, let me get my words out. Sutton versus York. I've gone for a 4-0 Sutton win, and you've gone for a 2-1 Sutton win. And that's our predictions for this week.
Nice. So yeah, I'm like, obviously there's a couple of things I just need to like make you aware of before we do the outros and log off for another heading into another game week. I am going to speak to our boss Ryan shortly after this podcast because we need to figure out what we are going to do for review for this game week, because we normally record on a Sunday or Monday afternoon for a Monday night release for Saturday games, but obviously there is a Monday afternoon fresh set of fixtures. So I don't really know when we're going to fit in the review, but we will obviously find a way to fit in a review. We might just have to maybe record it and release it either on the Saturday night or the Sunday morning and get it out to you Sunday night. And then you will either have, but then the problem we've got with that is when because me and Lauren won't probably be able to preview the Monday fixtures. So we've got some planning to do, maybe off camera and off recording, but I wasn't aware that it was a full fixture on Monday. But yeah, so me and Lauren will get speaking about that off camera with Ryan and see what we can rustle up. But there are just a few ideas. But other than that, it's been another successful preview show apart from my camera malfunctioning, Lauren getting cramped in bed, Lauren also saying publicly that she's ready to get a tattoo of my face on her, and whatever else came along your way in that last 15-20 minutes. We have been National League Natter. This has been your Matchday number 4 preview, and we will see you on the flip side either Sunday night or Saturday night, one of the two, I think, for the review of these games and a slight preview looking ahead to Monday. See ya.
Cheers, everyone.